subject of smart NIC cards, I thought let me show all sorts of configuration, because I do got in the past even a weird question like what is a NIC so of course we call a NIC card as a network interface card. In a shorter form we can call it as a NIC card. Okay, so professionally no one calls in a office or a corporate with the name as network interface card or network interface adapter or something like that, or Ethernet adapter or something. Instead they may always call as NIC cards. Okay, so that's what. So all these are cheaper NIC cards meant for consumer grade hardware. You can see there it's quite cheap. This is hardly in Indian rupees it is hardly $800 or $1,000, which is just nothing. It's just $30-40 or something like that. Of course you buy it in Amazon or US, it will be much cheaper, something like this. So sometimes these NIC cards may come with multiple Ethernet ports. It may come with a dual port and quad ports as well. So you can connect at a time 4 Ethernet cables to 4 of these Ethernet ports, versus this NIC card has only single Ethernet port. And if it uses if it has more Ethernet ports to compensate, of course it has to use more PCI lanes. So in that case, if it has more Ethernet ports, you will have also this PCI lane sort of extended. It is not going to be like this. See here, sometimes they mention as how many times of PCI lanes it is taking up, versus here they have not mentioned anything. But you can understand by seeing this form factor, it is just using this bit alone. If it is using 2 lanes, this will be much more broader. So in a way, what happens is this controller will have some features once you plug in and then you use this ETH tool. It will have some features. I can just do a quick walkthrough. We can do a quick walkthrough of the motherboard inbuilt NIC card of my PC, and then this one, because I can't plug this, I need to shut down my PC and all that stuff. And moreover, I can't even connect this because it is not compatible with this motherboard itself. So I need to have older PCI slot rather than PCI slot rather than this newer PCIe interface. So we can plug this and we can check some differences, and then again we can revisit this smart NIC card stuff itself. Okay. Yeah, so what we can do is before we plug this, we can check the interface features of this existing NIC card. I can just go here and I can do this ETH tool command, ETH tool, and you can tell man ETH tool. You have 2 options where ETH tool. Yeah, sudo apt install ETH tool. I have recently installed this Ubuntu sometime a year ago, and I have not been used this command ever since. Okay, so yeah, you can see there -h you can type, and you can see there all sorts of options it shows. So it's a quite elaborate command, and this command internally it communicates with Linux kernel with IO control interface. I have done some extensive video series on IO control. If you are interested, you can have a look. Okay, so if you come here, you can go to this videos, and then you can check IO CTL. Yeah, I have done some extensive video series on this interface, and it generally communicates with the IO control interface. So that's what it happens, and I believe even this ETH tool somewhere I have covered. Okay, so you can ETH tool. Yeah, you can see there even I have done some code work of this ETH tool command, and you can find the source code, the user space stuff over here versus the kernel space stuff over here, because the kernel space have to support whatever you do in the user space, and moreover the ETH tool, whatever you do here, it is a driver specific operation. Any network driver will have that corresponding ETH tool part of that, apart from packet handling and network registration, port registration, network port registration and stuff. So of course you will have all this stuff, and similarly I have even done that networking and QA, I believe here you should able to find the one which I am talking about. Yeah, you can see there GRO and stuff like that. So this even is quite handy and useful if you are exploring any subject like this, because this is where it says what is the limitation of these NIC cards and what is the purpose of getting towards the smart NIC cards and stuff. So that way you can see there ETH tool command. This is the ETH tool command. So if you type as lowercase k and ETH ENO0, because my NIC card it shows as ENO0. If you are showing it as ETH0, you can type that port name. You can see there it is saying no such device. I can just check ENO1. So I'm sorry, it is not ENO0, so ENO1. And you can see there it is showing all sorts of capabilities of that NIC card. See, these are various capabilities, and some capabilities can be turned off and turned on if it is supported on the hardware. If it is not supported on the hardware, you can't do that. Okay, so that is what it is. So if it is supported on the hardware, see for instance generic receive offload is on, I can disable that uppercase K, as you can see there, and the GRO off, and I can mention sudo, and if you do this once again, the GRO should be off. See, you can see there it is turned off. Okay, and I can just turn it on and recheck. See, now it is turned on. So this is what happens if it is supported. If it is not supported, essentially nothing happens. I mean, it may not even accept that command. I'm not sure. Either it accepts and then it is not going to change in the kernel, or it's just not going to accept and it is going to show the same status. So there will be some subtle differences, interface adapters to interface. I mean, NIC card to NIC card. If you do it, tool dump of this interface versus if you do each tool dump of this interface, it changes. And this is where, as you pay more price and it's a more higher end NIC card, so it may have more such features. And sometimes if it is a 10 gigabit NIC card or something like 100 Gbps NIC card, then it needs even more offload features, and the NIC cards will get expensive quite exponentially, because as the speed increases, the operating system can no longer do certain things like checksumming and other stuff. It's a huge stress on the system. Instead, it has to offload it to the NIC card, and NIC card should do rather than being done in a Linux kernel. All this stuff for whatever needed in IP header, the checksums in IP header, the checksums in TCP or UDP header, better than doing in the operating system. The kernel struggles doing it on a packet level basis. Instead, just offload it to the NIC card. The NIC card does on the controller, and since the NIC card has additional firmware and hardware capabilities, it gets quite expensive quite fast. Okay, so let me just plug this guy and we can test. Okay, you can do if config. See, this new one is this. It shows in this weird name. It shows the MAC ID plus EN nomenclature. So whatever is the MAC ID, you can see there that MAC ID, and it is attaching this ENX. So that's the port name, whatever it's been done in the device driver of that manufacturer. What we can do is, instead of EN01, you can enter this, and it shows its capabilities. And here is the fun part. What you can do is, you can do this and you can redirect this output to some type of a dump. Let's say we call this as this.txt, and the earlier one, ENO1, and we can put it in another dump as .txt. So you can see that this is pushed, dumped into this file, into the corresponding file, whatever the name I provided. So what you can do is, you can do a diff of this file and this file, and you can find some differences between NIC cards. Okay, see, you can see there both of them are completely different. This supports certain options. You can see their features for this is off and features for this is on. It really says that whatever the motherboard inbuilt NIC card has more capabilities and maybe more expensive controller as well compared to this USB one. Always USB adapters, you buy the network adapters through USB, always it will have some compromising factor. It is not going to be super duper expensive. At the same time, it may lack some features like this. Okay, see, you can see that here in this case scatter gather is on, in this case scatter gather is off, and in this case of course scatter gather it affects the DMA performance of driver implementation. So you have scatter gather